Chapter 5. Breeze Through the Trees. Sun led us to Mount Huaguo, where we found a huge waterfall pouring from a river atop the mountain. With a simple gesture, the waterfall parted like curtains and revealed a large cave that seemed like it had been carved into to make it wider and deeper. Inside, it was like a palace made of stone, with enough housing and amenities to accommodate an entire kingdom of monkeys. First, he led us to a fancy dining hall where we all ate our fill. And man, I was grateful for that. But then he brought us to Few. As soon as he saw him, Few bowed deeply to Sun. I found it a little odd that none of the other monkeys did that, but without a word of greeting, Sun said, "Please give me an update on the antidote." "Yes, my lord. There's been a problem in the alchemy lab. Ping is asking for you to come see him immediately," Few explained. Sun seemed displeased. Without a word, he got up and started walking through the halls of the palace. Few kept pace without acknowledgement, while Ren and I tagged along behind them. "Few, could you please fetch Damon a suitable weapon?" he asked, gesturing to me. I showed him my broken blade, and he took it before leaving. That was the last time I ever saw that sword. But it wasn't 5 minutes of walking before he came up with a new one. It was a little longer than the last, and had sharpened edges on both sides of the blade, but it felt well balanced. I flourished it and gave it a few practice swings, hoping it wouldn't break on me like the last one did. With a single swift motion, I sheathed it and looped it into my sword belt. "Seem good enough?" Sun asked. "It'll do for now, at least," I replied. He nodded and was about to speak, but was caught off guard when I said, "Sun, Ren said you knew about sensing chi and energy. I know you're busy right now, but it's almost impossible to see in the darkness out there, and I think I'd be more helpful if I could sense energy too." Sun seemed quite surprised at my indirect question. "You want to learn to feel chi? You're right, that would be helpful, but most people take years to learn a skill like that," he replied. I smiled and pointed a thumb to my chest. "Then it's a good thing I'm not most people." Sun seemed like he saw something in that moment. Maybe something in me, or something in himself. Part of me thinks he was reminded of himself when he was younger, now that I know him so well. But I guess I'll never really be sure. He looked at me with recognition in his eyes for a few moments before he put on a determined, almost furious expression, and his eyes grew redder and brighter. "All right, then we'll learn on the go," he said strongly. "Few, I'm leaving you in charge of the palace. We'll get the antidote and deliver it to Dongfu. I'll let you know the situation when I know more. And Ren, if I find you sneaking out again, you'll be in huge trouble, so don't try it. It's too dangerous out there right now between Taudi and the Ming Song family." Few nodded in approval, and Ren seemed dejected and annoyed. Few parted with us, and only a moment went by before Ren spoke up. "Wait! We found this puppy near Dongfu. Don't you think we should bring the little guy home?" Sun sighed in frustration, but seemed surprised when I stepped closer and grabbed the little snot by the scruff of his neck, before taking him in my arms. Ren looked into my eyes with wonder, but I turned away. With that, we left Ren behind as he led me through the palace. He lectured me as we walked. "I'm going to just assume you don't know anything about chi, okay? Chi is the flow of energy that travels through all things. It's like if everything in the universe were a wind chime, chi would be the wind. It comes from life itself and doesn't require the use of your own energy at all. It's always around us and in an unlimited supply. All you have to do is teach yourself to feel and manipulate it." "And how do I do that?" I asked impatiently. "I'm getting to that. Normally, we teach the monkeys to feel the chi of the universe in our waterfall, since you can feel the heavy flow of nature as water comes raging down on you. But we're short of time, and the waterfall can't exactly come with us," he explained. I was waiting for him to finish, but was surprised when he led me to one of the many doors in the labyrinthian structure of the underground palace. He led us inside, where I was aghast to find a large alchemy lab, complete with gardens, a large space for experiments, and a good handful of monkey scientists. Sun walked right up to the one I assumed to be Ping, an old light brown fellow with a curly tail and a pair of spectacles balanced on his nose, and asked him, "Is the antidote finished?" We were both surprised when Ping solemnly shook his head. "There is no antidote, Sun. We've tried everything we can think of, but nothing seems to neutralize the poison," he sadly explained. "What? But I thought," Sun started to say, but he stopped when I interrupted him. "I'm pretty sure he's right. The only thing I know of to deal with monk's hood poisoning is to treat the symptoms and prevent the patient from dying. But I'm not exactly a traveling doctor," I jumped in. Sun furrowed his brow as his frown stretched into a dissatisfied grimace. I watched his fist clench up a moment before he relaxed and regained focus. "Then I guess there's nothing more we can do. Those damn Ming Songs. How many people are they going to slaughter before they're satisfied?" he asked the room. No one answered. Sun clenched his whole arm a moment as I saw his lip lift in a furious snarl. Well, that's it then. I've had enough, he said. A moment later, he relaxed his body and expression, but I could still see the rage boiling underneath. What are you going to do? Ping asked with unease I hadn't expected. I think I'm going to pay them a visit, Sun said, and without another word he started walking away. I immediately kept pace with him and we left the lab. I followed him in silence as we left the palace at a quick march. As we headed out into the overwhelming darkness once again, I noticed the puppy had fallen asleep in my arm. Something about the gentle rising and falling of its breath gave me a feeling of calm. Damon, I'd nearly forgotten about your training, but this is a pretty golden opportunity. Since we're almost completely in the dark here in the forest, try and follow the wind as it blows between the trees. It'll help you see the direction the universe is flowing right now, Sun tutored. I was a bit flabbergasted. Follow the wind? I guess I could give it a try, I said, completely unsure of myself. Master Enyo had taught me to feel and read the subtleties of the environment, and I could feel the wind at my back, pushing me forward. It was making my hair flow ahead of me on the breeze as it wafted past the rushing waterfall. Although it was dark, I still found myself looking around, trying to spot the specific direction it was leading me. I looked to him when I heard Sun chuckle. Close your eyes, he said. As if an example, he closed his as well. So, despite my reluctance, I closed my eyes. I felt Sun's body shift and the dirt move around his feet before he leaped away from me, and then I heard him call, "Trust it!" back at me. I settled myself and leaped forward, trying to follow where I'd heard his voice going. Unfortunately, I smashed headfirst into a thick branch and went spinning into the dirt. I startled and dropped the poor puppy, but I scooped the little guy up before he could take off on me. I rubbed my throbbing head, but still gritted my teeth and tried to follow the wind. It just felt like it was going straight forward, so I leaped ahead, crashing the whole front of my body into a tree trunk. This time I fell back first onto the ground and the puppy scrambled away with a frightened yelp. I was surprised when I heard a gentle footstep close by, so I looked up to see Sun scooping the puppy up with an apologetic look on his face. Wow, okay, maybe this method isn't the right one for you, he remarked, scratching his cheek. I wasn't going to take that lying down, so I got up. No, I'll keep going, I insisted. He seemed surprised, so I smirked at him. I took a moment to gather myself and try and feel the direction of the wind again. It was going forward, but now I could actually feel more. It was like it was trying to maneuver around the trunk and branches, dodging them as if they were blows. I decided to follow my instincts and leaped through some branches to my left. I made it through a layer, but immediately caught my foot on a branch and flipped face first into the dirt. Are you sure you don't want to try a different method? Sun asked. So I replied, maybe I should, as I plucked myself from the earth. Sun nodded strongly before plucking a hair from his head and holding it up. With a quick flash of blue light, it turned into a bouquet of flowers he then handed to me. Asters? What am I supposed to do with these? Take a whiff. They smell great, don't they? He asked, taking a good sniff himself. I took a fair sniff, but I couldn't hardly smell anything. I can't really smell it, I explained. Sun seemed surprised, but changed gears, plucking a few of the many petals from one stem and crushing them in his hand. Can you smell this? He asked, holding them out to me. I took a deep inhale and my senses were warmed by an earthy scent that reminded me of pine, but lighter and less potent. Yeah, it smells nice, I remarked, not entirely sure why he was so focused on scent. Good, good. This is how we teach monkeys who struggle to sense the flow of chi. Simply crush a few petals and release them into the wind. If you can follow their scent, it should lead you down a safe path, most of the time, he remarked with a chuckle. Now come on, I want to get to those Ming Song bastards before they can do any more damage. And with that he leaped off into the forest, taking the puppy with him. I gulped hard but followed his example, crushing a few petals from the asters and letting the wind carry them away. I followed them closely and was actually able to leap to safety twice, but on the third bound the petals were caught in the hollow of a tree. Luckily I managed to land on the trunk before righting myself as I fell back to the ground. Not bad, but stop using only your eyes. Follow them with your nose, too, Sun insisted. I nodded and crushed another few petals before casting them to the wind. It took me several more tries, but eventually I started to get it. Once I was making progress, Sun stopped me. This is good. If you manage to follow them with each of your senses individually, you should eventually be able to put them all together to sense the flow of chi in the universe. It will probably take more practice than we have time for, and I'd like to get a move on. Hopefully the basics are enough for you to get by for now. I think I'll figure it out, thanks, I said. Sun simply nodded to me. So, now what? Are we ready to drop in on the Ming Song family? I asked with a smile. Sun surprised me when he raised a finger. Actually, I was going to ask you to return this little guy to Dong Fu. I'll head to Ordos and see what I can make of the situation, Sun said, offering me the pup. Not a chance in hell. I've got a score to settle with that Ming Song woman. Damon, I'm sorry to be the one to break it to you, but she's even a threat to me. I'm fairly certain she would pick you apart, Sun said cautiously. Not if I could use an aura transformation like you can, I said. And can you? Well, no. But you could teach me, I said with a pump of my fist. I was feeling excited at the prospect of finally catching up to Jacob after all this time. Sun couldn't help but smile a bemused smirk at me. What do you think I am, your new teacher? I have other things to do today, you know, Sun retorted. You really can't show me? I asked. I mean, I could try, but it's not something that people usually pick up in a day or two. In fact, it's rare for any demigod to reach the level of power required to use an aura transformation. And aside from that, usually it's tied to something specific in your mind, and I'm not exactly much of a therapist, he replied with a shrug. Damn, then how am I ever gonna catch up? I asked myself, looking to my clenched fist. Catch up to whom? Sun asked. My best friend, Jacob. He managed to transform and get a bright golden aura, but he says he doesn't really understand how he did it, I explained. Really? And this Jacob is also a demigod of the Greek pantheon? He asked. I nodded. Yeah, this whole plan to gather help from the other pantheons was his idea in the first place, I said. You don't say. Oh, what the hell. I'll try, but no promises, Sun said. I pumped a fist and said yes to myself, and he looked me up and down. I'm not really sure where to start. This is a lot easier when you know the person well. Oh, I've got it. Damon, take this puppy back to Dongfu, then return to my palace. There you can have Ren lead you to speak with my mother-in-law. She'll read your mind and be able to give you a lot more help on the subject than I ever will. In the meantime, I'll head to Ordos and see what I can see. Sound good? He asked. I felt pretty conflicted. I wanted to speak with Sun's mother-in-law and learn how to unleash my full potential, but at the same time, I assumed that Sun would probably be able to defeat Lin Yu and deal with the situation without me. But I really wanted to fight her, just one more time. I think I'd rather fight now and learn later, I said. Sun seemed a little annoyed as he grimaced and cleared his throat. Really? Well, do you know where Ordos is? He asked. He smiled when I shook my head. Great! Dongfu is that way. See you when I get back, he said, pointing in the direction of Dongfu before heading off so quickly it was like he vanished completely. The silhouette of his cheerful wave lingering in the air a moment after he was gone. Cheeky asshole.